The Raptors come up just short against the Sacramento Kings, 135-130. Welcome to Raptors Tonight. I'm Randy Urban, joined by Michael Giorgio, Eric Smith, and Paul Jones. How are you, fellas? Jonesy, you had a little bit of gripe before the show started. Let's hear it.
Well, listen. I'm going to
I had to hear it for the last 3 hours, Randy. So can I just leave now or what?
Yeah, I'm going to sound like that old guy from the 80s, okay? And I don't care if people are upset about it or not. I really dislike the way the game is being officiated and what they are allowing to, what they're letting go and what they are allowing to happen in the game. There was all this emphasis on the stem, the secondary theatrical exaggerated movements. There's still flopping going on. I'm not seeing it. There is baiting of the officials. The NBA has obviously devalued defense. They'd rather see a game like tonight. What's the final? 135-130? They'd rather see that than 95-90 or 100-95. So it's based on the offense. You got guys carrying the ball. You have all kinds of liberties being given to the offense. I mean, I look at the last foul that De'Aaron Fox took. He dribbled on the baseline, leaned in to get the contact.
Leaned back on
foul
Scotty.
there, and then leaned back on Barnes, who jumped straight up and down, but the defense is always in the wrong. You know, the sixth foul on Pirtle. Heck, one of the fouls that the Raptors got away with, like Sabonis' sixth foul, I didn't think he really fouled anybody, but the referees have to call this on the off chance that there actually is enough contact and it's not a flop. They're going to get nailed for not calling it. I'd love to see them allow some more physicality back in the game on defense. And can we please call the carry? Because that's become a move for some guys, the way the game is being called now. It's just hard to watch at times and see that things are actually being called fairly on both ends, because right now it depends on how you can sell the call. Steve Kerr said it best. They are legislating defense out of the game.
Mike,
I'm done. Good night.
On that.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive players are so skilled. Like, they can do so many different things. And one of the things that they've figured out how to do is, bait the referees, like Jonesy said. When you drive, if you can get your shoulders ahead of the defender, snap your head and throw it at the rim.
Throw the head back.
And they're gonna give you the call. And I think, that goes both ways, obviously. And some nights it goes your way and some nights it doesn't. So, but I think Jonesy's absolutely hit the head on the nail. Like, it's really hard to play defense at a high level nowadays.
Eric, I'd rather see 97, 95. Maybe not every night, but some nights I like those types of games.
Randall, you're a purist. You're a basketball person. And right now they're trying to engage the casual fan to the game. Like all of us, Mike's a coach. We don't mind seeing 80, 83, 81, 97, 95. But the casual fan calls that boring. So they promote the scoring.
Randy, I'll tell you, Jonesy, you and I talked about this on one of our broadcasts last year. I'm going to use a personal example for a second. My kid last year in a youth basketball league was in like a championship game in his house league. The referee, shout out to Coach Akram, the referee called a carry, I would guess, 40 times in the game. And I loved it. I loved it because every time a kid came down at 13 years old and put it down at 6 o'clock and brought it back over, boom, whistle, carry. And the amount of times, I could come up with probably 100 examples right now, but the one that first pops in my brain more than any is Trae Young. As fabulous as Trae Young is, he's constantly doing this every single time. He's clearing that space on his crossovers, his step backs, his deep range threes and everything else because he's carrying the ball, I'd say 85% of the time. If they actually started enforcing that, it might cut down on some of the BS that we're seeing across the board in the game in general. But the problem is they talk about points of emphasis, but then do they actually follow through when the season rolls? And then it just gets out of hand. Here we are, we're almost halfway through the season. And I know Jonesy and I, well, more so Jonesy, rant about this on the radio broadcast all the time, that what we hear about in the preseason And even in the early stages of the year, by the quarter point, let alone the midpoint, like Jonesy, how many times have we seen, transition takes? How many times have we seen flop? It barely happens. Barely.
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
Giannis was carrying like a madman against the San Antonio Spurs last night. All right, let's get into the game a little bit more. Jonesy, Raptors obviously knew Sacramento was a fast team. Still, it looked just a little too easy for the Kings. How come?
Well, the first half especially, Randy, and those are the two words Sacramento plays with, that pace and space. And I just thought, they put up 77 points in the half. I just thought Toronto's defense did not impact their offense in any way, shape, or form to slow them down. They're over 50% from the floor, over 50% from three. The actions that they ran through Sabonis, there wasn't much ball pressure on him. As a matter of fact, they were backing up to try and, kind of play center field. And what you're doing with a guy like Sabonis is, that's like a quarterback sitting back there having all day to make the pass. There's no ball pressure. That's your first tenet of defense. Ball pressure, one pass away and help side. And there was no ball pressure. And now he's dribbling towards the defender. He's coming downhill at you and eating up that space. So I thought they did a much better job in the second half. They put Barnes on him for a while. They actually double teamed for a bit. I thought the defensive effort and impacting Sacramento's offense was in the second half. They did a much, much better job, and that's what got him back in the game.
Mike, how would you have slowed down Sabonis or Sacramento in general? Can you slow down a team like that?
Yeah, you got to play methodical offense. Your defense starts with your offense, I'd say. That stretch right towards the end of the second quarter, 52-48 for the Kings, and then it was 77-57 at the half.
57, yeah.
The pace just increased so much, and Keegan Murray got hot, and then Monk got hot, and then it was offensive rebound putbacks, and it was just an avalanche in the last 5 minutes there. I think what the coaching staff did is they made a great adjustment in the fourth quarter. They went to switch everything and forced them to play one-on-one, and it didn't allow ball movement. It didn't allow open threes, and guys' effort, like Jonesy said, went up, and it allowed them to play one-on-one, and the ball didn't move, and we didn't get caught in rotations and kick out threes. So I think that's where our defense technically really got better in the second half.
Eric, I want to talk about Schroeder for a second. He was great in that third. He's been much more consistent since coming off the bench. He's really, really excelling in this role.
Yeah, I think this is more suited for him outside of that short stint that I guess he had for a brief time in Atlanta. This is kind of what his career has been, right? He's been a secondary guy. He's been that sort of spark plug off the bench, and I think that he's fitting in well. And I give him a lot of credit for, and I think I used this line with you the other day on another show, Randy, where I've been saying forever, there's a lot of guys in sports, let alone in life in general, people that know their roles versus people that accept their roles. And it's one thing to know it. He's accepted it. And it probably had to come begrudgingly. You come in as a free agent, you think you're being handed the keys to kind of run the show. And then, 30 odd games into the season, you're now coming off the bench. I'm sure that was a bit of a pride thing to swallow. And he has embraced it. He's been fantastic. And even without Gary Trent tonight, who was out with the injury, it was still Schroeder that was that kind of main cog, that spark plug in that second unit. And I thought he really did kind of change the face of the game in that second half by having two guards on the floor, by having both him and Quickly. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm not trying to cause any drama here, but RJ Barrett didn't look too happy, nor should he be, about being on the bench. But Darko had to ride the hot hand and ride what was working. And what was certainly working was Chris Boucher's energy and his defense and his just how plugged into the game he was. And as I said, that backcourt combo of Quickly and Schroeder and the ability of both to handle the ball, you had to ride that out, even if it came at the expense of RJ only seeing 2-3 minutes in the fourth quarter.
I want to go to a question from YouTube. This is from @LuisHighlights6783. Great name. She said, I didn't know who Jonte Porter is until I saw his highlights with the 905. The kid is legit, definitely has defensive skills, quick hands, quick feet, only 24. Love watching him. Jonesy, your impressions of Porter?
I thought he was really good tonight. I think in the first half, he was a little bit, as all the Raptors were, victimized by Sabonis. I mean, Sabonis practically had a triple-double, at halftime. But look, I thought Porter did a better job in the second half. He gave them some offense. And, you heard, Mike just talk about it. We talk about defense being devalued. It's your offense that has to keep you in games. And no longer can you be on the floor at any position and not be an offensive threat, particularly from long distance. And I thought he did a really nice job tonight, kind of playing within himself. You know, he knocked down a couple shots, but he didn't force them. The ball movement brought them to him. He was ready for those opportunities. So I liked what he gave them. And let's face it, with the trade sending Achua out of town, there really isn't a, quote, big, unquote, backup for Jakob Poeltl. I thought Porter did a really nice job tonight.
Mike, I want to talk real quick about the offense. You know, they've obviously given quickly the keys to the offense, running the, you know, the primary point guard position. But, you know, Scotty was that before the trade for a little while there. How do you amalgamate them both doing that, or do you want to do that? What would you do there?
I think for the most part they've been doing it. They've been staggering the two guys where, you know, when Quickly's off, Scotty's in, and he gets his chances to handle, and Pascal gets his chances to handle. And I think the more they play together, the more comfortable they're going to be, and they're going to figure out, you know, this is my time, that's his time, this is this play for that guy, and you know, after 3 games, they're already way better than game 1, in my opinion. And you're going to keep seeing that get better as long as, you know, they keep buying into the, you know, let's take turns. Let's not, it doesn't have to be one guy. It doesn't have to be the next every game. It can be all of us every game. And that's going to show, you know, I think they had 8 guys in double figures tonight. Like, that's big time. We got to continue that. And, you know, we obviously scored the ball enough to win tonight. Just didn't get enough stops.
All right, I want to do a little bit of overtime with you, Eric. I'll start with you. You obviously saw Jokic game winner over Golden State. Warriors up big, 5, 6, 7 minutes to go. Jokic shot at the buzzer. His 39th basket in 44 attempts during the last 4 games prior to tonight. This guy is just on another level. Have you ever seen anything like it?
No, not with this kind of efficiency, and certainly not from that size either. I mean, from a big man like that to do what he's doing, and how effortless he makes it look at times, whether it's from the perimeter or in the paint. It's just it's fun to watch, period. This is where take the hat off as a broadcaster, somebody just in the league, just a fan of the game. He's a pleasure to watch. Like, absolutely. The only problem is, unfortunately, they weren't able to follow it up tonight, and they lose on the back-to-back as they fall to the Orlando Magic, who keep steaming along in the Eastern Conference. So it was unbelievable to see what he did against Golden State, and it gives you a little bit of a glimmer of hope, I suppose, if you're the Raptors, Randy, looking at the next 2 games against what used to be 2 big-time Bears and Dogs that you were like, oh my God, we're staring down the barrel of Golden State and then the Lakers. These are still 2 winnable ball games now, based on the way things are going for the Warriors and for the Lakers right now.
Yeah. And then Jonesy, it was the shot that kind of broke the Warriors, it seems like, with all this news coming out with Kuminga saying he's not happy with Steve Kerr, not having faith in him. What do you make of all that?
Well, listen, losing brings out the worst in everybody. You know, we always say winning is the great deodorant. It covers up everything that stinks. And once you start to lose, everybody's got the answer. You got a coach and Mike beside you there. He can tell you, you know, you're winning. Everybody has to be quiet. They have to respect the fact that things are going your way, even though a guy might not be happy. But when you start losing, it brings out the worst in everybody, and everybody's got the answer. So, look, is it different if that pass from Curry last night, which I thought was a really tough pass cross court? I mean, they've kind of reverted to the old Warriors back in the day that were just learning a bit, turning it over at key times. But I mean, maybe he makes that pass to Chris Paul at the top, and Chris Paul gets a shot to maybe win that game, or moves in for a mid-range shot. But that, you know, it's turned over. Denver calls a timeout. Jokic makes a shot, and now everybody's got the answer, and things are falling apart. So, you know, they win tonight against Detroit, but the Raptors are in there next, and try to take advantage when things aren't going well.
Mike, are you surprised at Kuminga's comments? And do you think the Warriors, in effect, are done?
I don't think they're done, but they got some things to figure out for sure. They need buy-in. They need to get a little bit lucky. I mean, last night, like, you know, Jokic is great and all, but in the end, that is a lucky shot. That's a low percentage look, and the guy makes it. So you give him credit, but, you know, the process behind whatever their defensive scheme was at the end was good. Offensively, they got things to figure out. They got to figure out who's in what role now that Clay is sort of a little bit diminished and Draymond's not there to sort of play the point forward position. Sounds like he'll be back soon, so that'll be a big boost for them moving forward. So, like Eric and Jonesy said, you got to take advantage when you have a chance to win a game on the road, and hopefully the Raptors can go in there and do their thing against them.
Eric, were you surprised at the Kuminga comments? I mean, Steve Kerr's pretty high level. Not a guy you want to question.
Listen, I was, because as good as Kuminga is as a good young player, I don't know if you've earned the cred yet, the juice to be able to make that kind of comment, especially given the stature of the rings as a coach, let alone as a player as well with Steve Kerr. I thought Kerr's comments tonight, kind of trying to put a bit of throw a bucket of water on it and maybe take a little pressure off his player. I don't know if you saw them, Randy, but he essentially said, hey, man, 15 years in the league, 15 years I was never happy with my playing time. Like that to me is a sign of a good coach as well, just kind of looking out for his player and trying to squash it before it becomes anything. And I think there's probably a large element of truth to that. How many guys, I just mentioned RJ Barrett, how many guys are happy with their playing time in general, especially when it's coming in losses, when you think that you can be the difference. I'm going to be the guy that's going to make the difference. I'm going to be the guy that makes the shot or makes the play. You want to be in there, not just sitting back watching.
And I loved how Kerr said also, like, I should have played him more. And he did. He played 36 minutes tonight in a win. So, like, listen, I think people make a big deal of this stuff sometimes because these are all competitive people. Everybody wants to play. You get to that level, you want to play nonstop. So, last one, Jonesy, what do the Raptors need to do to win in Golden State on Sunday?
Boy, we keep talking about a 48-minute effort, Randy. Maintain what you can in terms of your defensive intensity. Pay attention. I saw missed assignments tonight. I saw two guys going with one guy, not communicating. Those kinds of things have to be cleaned up. And it's tough because you don't have a lot of practice time. You're on the road. You're integrating new people. You're putting other people into new roles. It is difficult, but they've got to maintain the intensity, communicate defensively. And then at the offensive end, hey, you score $130 tonight on the cash register, shooting over 50%. Normally you're thinking that's a win, right? And you come up a little short. So try to find a way to impact the game defensively.
All right, great stuff, guys. Going to stop it there. Next game for the Raptors is Sunday against the Golden State Warriors. Tip off at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, Raptors Tonight will go live on YouTube shortly after the game. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.